What if I told you Oda just dropped one of the most insane Brook bombs of the final saga, and then just walked away like nothing happened? No explanation, no follow-up, just pure lore poison dripped on the floor, and we all scrambled like starving animals to lick it up, because in chapter 1146, Brook casually says he knows about the Holy Knights, and straight up says he suspects Gunko is one of them. And that alone should have set the internet on fire. But that was just the appetizer, just a crumb, and Oda knew exactly what he was doing. Because 3 chapters later, in 1149, he slams us with a flashback, right before Imu takes over Gunko's body. A scream, a childlike voice, a Gunko-shaped figure yelling, "Father," and then boom, cut. Young Brook, even younger Gunko, and Brook says his dream is to become a pirate. And that single panel might be one of the most disrespectful teases Oda has ever done, because it should have been the law drop of the year. And instead, he immediately said, nah, let's do every other flashback first. Loki, Harold, Rox, Roger, Shanks, Shocky, everyone cuts the line, while Brook is left standing there like, excuse me, I have lore too. But here's the problem. Brook is now clearly connected to the Holy Knights, at least indirectly, through Gunko, through that flashback, through that silhouette. And that silhouette is not using Shusui-style swords or musical rapers. It looks way closer to the blades used by Garling, Shamrock, Saint Summers, those clean Holy Knight swords. So the question explodes immediately. Was Brook once a Holy Knight? Did he have a covenant with Imu? Did he pull a Shanks, walk into the Holy Land, get a mark, get a tattoo, make a pact, and then bail? And if so, did that pact break when he died? Because there is no skin left for a mark to exist on. And did Gunko replace him after his death? Because if that's true, then this is insane. But hold up, before we go full tinfoil, he was the leader of a battle convoy for a kingdom. And that matters, because that means he could have attended the reverie. And we just learned that the reverie from 56 years ago was one of the bloodiest in history. The one where Rox killed a Marine admiral, where Rox met Harold, where everything started to collide. And guess who is now retroactively connected to that entire era? Gunko, who appears throughout the Rox flashback. So what are the odds that Brook was also there, not as a pirate, but as a king's escort? Because the timeline actually works. The Rumbar pirates only entered the Grand Line 52 years ago, 4 years after that reverie, which means Brook could absolutely have been present. But here's where it gets weird, because Gunko appears at that reverie as Imu's attendant, and then again 38 years ago at God Valley as a devoted Blade of God. An 18-year gap, and she does not age at all. Which makes no sense. Even the Elder Stars age, even those with Deep Sea Covenants age. Saint Summers aged, but Gunko didn't. And at God Valley, she shouldn't even have a Deep Sea Covenant yet, only a Shallows one, which means she breaks the system entirely. And that's why I don't fully buy the Brook Holy Knight theory. But here's the kicker. Even if Brook was never a Holy Knight, he is functionally already one. Because look at his abilities. Perennial youth? Check. He will never age again. Regeneration? Check. He can reattach limbs with his soul, and anything else he fixes with milk. Which, yes, is a joke, but jokes in One Piece are real. And then there's the yokai connection. Brook has always been compared to a Gashadokuro, an undead skeleton formed from fallen, unburied warriors, which is literally the Rumbar pirates. And in Wano, he straight up uses a yokai disguise, just like the 5 elders. one of whom, Saint Ethanbaron Vith Newstudo, turns into a skeleton horse. And both of them command the chill of the underworld, which means Brook is paralleling abyss powers without a covenant. And it gets even crazier, because Brook has traveled via a pentagram. When Kuma sent him to Namakuta Island, he landed on a summoning symbol, surrounded by cultists who thought he was summoned from the underworld. And Kuma visited almost every island he sent the Straw Hats to, except Brook's and Luffy's. So there is a crack theory that Brook wasn't even sent there intentionally, but drawn there by the Abyss Network itself. So Brook has youth, regeneration, underworld powers, yokai forms, pentagram travel, and soul dominance through music, which we see on Fishman Island, where he literally controls enemies at the soul level, making them dance. And he's framed against the moon in a proto-Nika pose. And that same soul dominance appears again with Luffy and Bonnie using the drums of liberation to force giants to dance. Which means this power set is not unique to Imu. And here's the final twist. Brook did form a covenant, just not with Imu. When Gunko offers to enslave him and make him write music forever, Brook refuses and says from the day Straw Hat Luffy gave him a second life, he belongs to no one else. And that sounds exactly like a Holy Knight's oath, just without coercion, without chains, without a god demanding it. So even if Brook was a Holy Knight in his first life, in his second life, he is something far more dangerous. He is a devoted blade of the sun, and that is terrifying. And if you think this is where it stops, if you think Brook's story peaks at maybe Holy Knight, maybe not, then you are severely underestimating just how far Oda is willing to push this character. Because Brook is not just paralleling the Holy Knights, he is mirroring the entire god system of One Piece from the outside, and that is far more dangerous than being inside it. Because every single abyss power we have seen so far comes with a price: free will, identity, servitude. And yet Brook has all of the benefits and none of the chains. Look at the Straw Hats as a whole, because this is important. This is not random. Every single one of them is a counterfeit god or demon. Zoro as the king of hell, Sanji channeling Ifrit Jambe, a demonic concept rooted in real mythology, Robin becoming a literal devil form, Chopper embracing monsterhood, Frankie transcending humanity, and Luffy, of course, being the sun god himself. And then you have Brook, the only one who has already died, crossed the boundary, and come back with something from the other side. And that makes him unique even among monsters. Because Brook is not just using powers, he is interfacing with the concept of death itself. His fruit is called the Yomi Yomi no Mi. Yomi, the Japanese land of the dead, the world of darkness, and his techniques are named after underworld terms: Yoriki, chill of the underworld, soul solid. This is not accidental naming. This is Oda telling us that Brook is operating in the same metaphysical space as Imu and the Elders, just from a different angle. And here's the part that should actually scare you, because Imu's power is about control, subjugation, covenants, contracts, dominion. But Brook's power is about inspiration, resonance, music, rhythm, emotion. And what is Luffy's power at its core? Rhythm, drums, heartbeats, dancing, laughter, freedom. Which means Brook is not just a crew member. He is a perfectly aligned conductor for Nika's worldview. And this is why that anime filler matters way more than people want to admit. Because the idea of Brook praying to a music god sounds silly, until you remember that Nika was a laughing god, a dancing god, a god of joy. And what is music if not structured joy? What is a song if not a collective heartbeat? And suddenly, that throwaway line about the god of music doesn't love me anymore starts looking like foreshadowing in disguise. And yes, the manga is vague, borderline criminally vague. One day I was praying and my soul left my body. That is all we get. But Oda does this on purpose, because prayer in One Piece is never casual. It is always a signal. Skypiea prayed and Nika answered. The world nobles pray and Imu answers. And Brook prayed and something answered. Something that gave him the ability to separate soul from body at will, which is a power that even the elders do not display openly. And if you want to go even deeper, look at Brook's role as Soul King, because he is not just a musician, he is a symbol. His music connects people. His concerts create mass ecstasy, collective emotion, and we have seen time and time again that mass emotion is a trigger for god powers in One Piece. Nika awakens when people need him. Bonnie's powers scale with belief. And Brook literally feeds off the emotional response of his audience. And that brings us back to Gunko, because she is the antithesis of this. She listens to Brook's music in isolation, with tone dials, consuming joy without sharing it. And that is exactly how Imu's world operates. Hoarding power, hoarding life, hoarding history. And yet Gunko is clearly affected by Brook, emotionally, personally, which means there is a crack there, a memory, a childhood connection, a time before covenants, before gods, before chains. And if that scream of father means anything, if it is not just symbolic, then it implies that Gunko lost something, or someone, and Brook may have been the first person to show her a different path. Piracy as freedom, music as escape. And that would explain why she is so deeply conflicted. Why Imu needs to take over her body in the first place. Because her will is not fully broken. So when you put all of this together, Brook is not a side character. He is not comic relief. He is a walking contradiction to Imu's system. A man who has died, returned, gained godlike powers, and still chose loyalty. A man who has died, returned, gained godlike powers, and still chose loyalty. Not to a god, but to a man who embodies freedom. And that is why Brook may never fight directly, but he is already winning against him thematically, because he proves that you can touch the underworld, you can command souls, you can defy death itself without ever surrendering yourself to a false god. Yo!